So, 2-pin Gil, name on account of your 2 pins.
I do have 2 pins today. One from Lapellier and one from Get Well Gamers. So there we go. Big charity, you should check them out. Very, very nice people. We're all wearing their pins today, apart from Scott, because he hates charity. That's what he said. No, he just forgot. Yeah. I'm not doing Arkham. Aha! You think you all have me figured out, don't you? But no, I'm not doing Arkham today.
Is it Red Dead?
No, I love the endings for both Red Deads, but it is a Rockstar game. And it's actually GTA 5, because I think that GTA 5 mechanically is a great game. It's great fun. Narratively, however, I think it leaves a lot to be desired. And it's one of those occasions where I feel as though Rockstar, they homage too much. I think the character, as Michael it is, I think he's so derivative of Robert De Niro's character in Heat, and there are so many different aspects of the film that, well, from the game that kind of borrow elements from the film, and I really, really don't think any of the 3 protagonists actually gel together in any kind of compelling way. I like the different personalities, and in Trevor's case, absolutely him, but everyone has a reason to exist, but they don't have a reason to exist together, and I don't think the game ever brings them together in a meaningful way. And when it comes to the point in the story where you're meant to bring them all apart, and you're meant to have a very emotional decision about who you kill, it's like, well, obviously I'm going to kill Trevor, he's a madman. Man does horrid things, and of course I'm going to. I mean, the other 2 folks do, horrid things as well. But Trevor's bad, and when I killed him, it's like, why'd you kill Trevor? Why'd you do it? Why? Why did you kill him? And I'm like, because he was a bad man. Of course I'm going to kill him. And also, just even the quote unquote true ending is not satisfying either, and I feel as though it's one of those cases where you've got an open world game and you've got to justify players staying around afterwards, and GTA could have probably done that by just introducing just a bland third wheel protagonist just to play in the post game, because I wasn't interested in exploring any of Los Santos after the story was ended, and that is both a failure of the story itself and of just the lack of meaningful stuff to do in the open world. And this is, again, someone who absolutely really likes that game. I think GTA Online was great up until the financial, it wasn't a crash, it was just a boom, and everything got so expensive, and they priced me out, with their shark cards and their casinos and their high society living. But yeah, GTA 5's ending is not great, and I think that maybe stems from the fact that the story itself has its own failings, but they could have saved it in their own way, but the choice they leave you with at the end is nowhere near as gut-wrenching as they think it is. So yeah, GTA 5.
See, there's none that I think, oh my god, I think it needs changing. Implicitly, it's terrible, I hate it. But there is a couple that I think, like when asked the question, I think, ooh, maybe I'd have like a few tweaks to it. So I think Fable 2 is obviously one that needs bringing up, because the whole fight with Lucien is not a fight, it's just you popping one off at him, or Reva popping one off at him, and then it's the end of the game. Like, you don't get that whole satisfying big boss fight at the end. But then there is the other side to that, where they're subverting the expectation, which I think is interesting. But yeah, a big, satisfying, like actual murderous, whoa, it's a big fight sort of thing would have been fantastic, and I would have preferred that, I reckon. But the other one is actually Red Dead Redemption 2, which is maybe controversial as Ewan draws breath in. I wouldn't change anything about Arthur's storyline, which I think is perfect. I think the way that it plays out is very cinematic, it's very beautiful. It takes ages to get there, but we get there in the end. It's the prologue that I have a problem with, because I just don't think it's necessary. I don't think we need it. I think it's so long and arduous, and it comes on straight away afterwards and adds 2 chapters on to like your 6-chapter story, which I think is just unnecessary. Like, I really enjoyed building the house. I'm not going to lie and say I didn't enjoy going tick, tick, tick in time with the little TikTok thing, but I just personally think that it's not necessary, and the Arthur storyline gets kind of diluted by adding this on at the end. You don't get all of the time to like kind of dwell on it and watch like the credit scenes and all that sort of thing with all, like thinking about that storyline. I think it turns it into John's story again, which I guess the whole Red Dead Redemption franchise is. But I just wanted to focus on Arthur for a bit. I thought bringing John into it at this point was just, it was just a bit much, and it took so long to get through that bit as well, and it was pulled out, and it just slowed down all the momentum that you got to. It's like you kind of just hit like a wall with all of the stuff that you built to with Arthur, and then had to kind of start it again and just go through it slowly, riding wagons and doing odd jobs and stuff, and yeah, unnecessary. I'd change that, I'd just take it off. Have it as a DLC or something.
It's not a change I would give, like I'd replace the whole thing. I wanted more context from the ending of Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. So, in case you don't know, you're trying to liberate America, and in the process of liberating America, you get to slash open Frau Engel's face, which is fun. The ending of it is kind of like the whole team, your whole squad that you've had, and they all stand there and go, yeah, we've liberated America. And it goes, Wolfenstein 2, and the credits roll. And I sort of went, oh, okay, sure. And the thing is, you see a bit of downtown, where is it you see in Wolfenstein 2 when you're walking down the street as a fireman? Is it like Kentucky or something? I don't know. But you see a little bit of America actually under the Nazi influence, and as much as it's obviously a very oppressive society, there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, this is whatever, I guess I'll go along with it then. You have that with BJ's dad, you kind of have people that are concerned for their safety, but they're just kind of like, for fuck's sake, let's just, it's kind of hard to sort of, to revolt against such a huge power, and that's why the rebellion in Wolfenstein 2 is only like 4 or 5 people. And it gets to the end of it, and it's like, yeah, we've done it. And I just sort of I want to know more. Did you? Did you really go on TV and say, we're going to liberate America? Because I'd really like to see the citizens of America go, ha, good luck, change channel. Like, yeah, it seems weird to think they'd be not happy, but sort of complacent underneath the Nazi regime, but you don't see anything of it. But apparently it happened because Youngblood turns up, and Grace is the head of the bloody FBI, which was like, okay, that was a bit sudden. And, you know, America's fine. But I wanted to know that it actually did happen, because there's a part of me with how sort of small scale this rebellion felt as to whether actually America was liberated. I wanted to know whether that happened. I'll have to wait till Wolfenstein 3, because I'm assuming that's going to happen before Youngblood, because there were points dropped during Youngblood that are like, oh, that's definitely a plot detail from Wolfenstein 3. Thanks, Machine Games. That's fine. But, you know, I wanted to see whether the liberation of America was actually as easy as that, or whether it was actually getting, like, the convincing people to get off their asses to actually kick the Nazis' asses, because it seemed to be only about 6 people that were doing it. So, weird one, I think. But, yeah, did it actually happen?
Well, to be honest, I would generally change any ending that runs longer than about 2.5 minutes, because obsessive compulsive disorder dictates that I sit through the entirety of it, like all the credits, which pretty much rules out, pretty much means every ending from the last 10 or 15 years. But more specifically, a bit of an idiosyncratic choice, and it's a game which a lot of people don't necessarily realise has an ending, and that's Tetris. So if you manage to endure the whims of gravity for long enough, eventually you will see a sequence in which a load of Russian folk, they're all dancing to the tray pack from the Nutcracker Suite, and you get to see a space rocket launching into the moon or wherever. And it seems like a lovely celebration of the Soviet space program. It's all very wholesome. But what if it actually is the consummation of the Cold War and about to drop nuclear-loaded blocks onto the capitalist West? I mean, that's not nice at all. It's actually horrendous.
Have you just described the plot from Threads?
No, I've described the plot from Tetris.
This is what the Tetris movie is going to be based on.
Yeah, when it eventually comes out. I don't think that's very nice at all. I think it ruins what's an otherwise lovely game.
Well, I don't often do this, but because this is a really kind of recent game, I'm going to spoil pretty much the last 10 hours of Days Gone. So if anyone wants to play this is a long-ass game. Genuinely, the last 10 hours are essentially the ending, so I'm going to spoil all of that. But anyway, you all know that Days Gone is the story of Deacon St. John, set in this post-apocalyptic world, and he's kind of out to figure out whether his wife Sarah is alive or dead, because he put her on a plane at the start of the apocalypse, not a plane, a helicopter. And then when he went to meet up with her, the site where she was at was completely ravaged and everyone was dead, and he has been living the past 2 years assuming that she's gone. In the game, all the way through, toys with the idea of, is she alive, is she not? He goes on these threads with the Nero guys, who are the only kind of established form of government left, essentially. They are scientists who were involved in the outbreak, and he eventually persuades one of the guys who was there on the helicopter because he survived to figure out whether or not she's alive. And it goes back and forth. He figures out that she might be alive, then no, she's dead again. Then she might be alive, and no, she's dead again. Eventually, it does turn out that, spoilers, she is alive. She's at this camp north of the, maybe south of the border, and he's with like this militia, and he needs to figure out how the virus started and what happened there. But for me, that in itself sacrifices the most compelling arc in the entire game, because all the way through, Deacon St. John is dealing with his grief, and he's trying to come to terms with this new world, and he really goes on a quite compelling journey. The fact that he keeps clinging on to hope, even though everything keeps saying that she's not alive. Even his best friend is saying, look, just move on, it's been 2 years, she's definitely dead. And that is quite an interesting way to go with a post-apocalyptic story where you don't figure out that the person that you love is alive and you have to deal with that grief. And it's a cool, real human emotion that the game just completely discards when you realize that she is alive and that they get back together because of course they do. And it's fine in the scenes with the two are actually really well directed and really well performed. But it's just, it sacrifices so much character development in the process. The idea of Deacon St. John being this kind of anti-hero, kind of this bad dude. In one of the subplots with the Rippers, it's discovered that even before things went to hell, he was a bad dude, he was a nasty man, but he never has to atone for his sins in any meaningful way because then he gets the girl, and then the final twist of the game reveals that the Nero people who you've been kind of helping throughout the game are also infected, but they're sort of smart, and that's the final twist that leaves you hanging for a sequel, which again robs a lot of the character development because that means the sequel is going to be a regular good versus evil tale rather than this weird complex morality piece on how you adapt to your new surroundings and stuff, and it just makes it kind of way more cookie cutter than it really should have been.
Oh goody, another one of these entries that makes me be negative about a game in any way. Fantastic, let's have fun with this one. So, the only game I have ever finished and thought, what the heck was that, was Firewatch. And now obviously I can look back and I know, yes, I know what you're thinking, I get it. It ends the way it does for a reason. It's a reflection on humanity and how not everything is always this big conspiracy and sometimes things don't have a happy ending. But at the time, oh my goodness, I wanted so much more from this ending. So I think what I would do is I would change it so that people like me don't have any kind of game that springs to mind when asked to change an ending. So yeah, I would change Firewatch. So basically, if you haven't played it, I'm about to spoil it, because at the end of Firewatch, flipping nothing happens, okay? You play as Henry, who is trying to escape the responsibilities of his life. His wife has early onset dementia, which must be a flipping nightmare. Bless his wee heart. He goes, kind of falls into the trap of Delilah and starts, sort of sexting her over the radio, and nothing happens. You never ever get the option to run away with Delilah. She sort of rubbers you and leaves you in a helicopter. And I think I would like an option through, like a very difficult option to maybe have this happy ending where you go off with Delilah in her helicopter. That would have been really cool. Like, even if I finished it and then realized, maybe I should have flirted more. Like, just to have the option would have been nice. But I think that was my biggest gripe. My biggest gripe was like, oh, brilliant. Okay, so there wasn't a big conspiracy. It was really just a dead kid in a cave, which, yes, that was a bit of a shock, but it's not really what I was expecting. But to me, I think the biggest thing was the whole like, oh, do you like Delilah? Do you not like Delilah? Do you want to betray your wife? That's the bit I would change. I would have some kind of option to be the bad guy and just like totally like shirk your wife and just go off with Delilah. Just the option, I feel, would have made that whole game so much stronger. Or would it though, because the whole point is that it's hopeless and it's beautiful and it makes complete sense and I'm just being spoiled, I guess.
Shock, horror, surprise, I'm going to be once again talking about BioShock. Because I really think that it's a great game, like genuinely, it's one of the best scripted games ever. But the thing is that the ending, it goes to this amazing apex where you're just like, oh cool, the fall of Rapture, at your hands, you've taken down Andrew Ryan and you're walking around realizing that you're actually just a weapon, a biological weapon that's being used for the downfall of his entire city. And then it's just like, okay, the game asks you the question, how do we wrap this up then? Because it's not really it's a cathartic ending, but it's not something that a game would have as an ending. So they'd introduce a boss battle at the very end with you versus Atlas, and it's absolutely f***ing gash. I hate it. It's the worst bit about the game. Unbelievably, you're fighting a giant Mercury man, and he comes down with his little pants on. He's like, I'm the best, you little mug, and you go, fuck off. And then you get his sisters and they stab him, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. But the boss battle's crap. Wave after wave of just like minions, and then you stab him with a needle because he gets tired. You're meant to be the epitome of all of power, and you get a bit sleepy. Chuck it out. Whole thing, just get rid of it. And in its place, you know what I'd put? Absolutely nothing. I'd have it end with you walking around, looking around, seeing the entirety of Rapture collapsing around you, Fontaine laughing because he wins, and yes, the bad guy can win and it still is a good ending, and then it just fades to black as you collapse with the city around you. That's how I would end it.
It's hard this because my mind went to Mass Effect 3, but that's been done to death. So I'm going to do the end of Metal Gear Solid 5. Now I love Hideo Kojima. I love all the ridiculous stuff, even the peeing that was at the end of Gamescom. The thing that I had a big problem with, even though I love Mr. Kojima and all of his different whims and everything, is that game was obviously unfinished. They ended up putting the actual ending on the deleted scenes bonus version or whatever it was. And you can watch it on YouTube. It just says that it's 30% done or whatever. But if we remove that, because obviously you can't count a deleted scene as part of an overall established canon or whatever, then the whole Metal Gear timeline, or the middle chunk of the Metal Gear timeline, doesn't make any sense. Because at the end of Metal Gear Solid 5, Liquid Snake, who's called Eli in that game, leaves with Sahelanthropus, the big old Metal Gear, what would become Metal Gear Rex later on, and just goes off to Africa. This is in 1984. And then nothing happens for about 11 years. And it's just little young Liquid Snake hanging out with a massive bipedal walking nuclear battle tank and his friend Psycho Mantis just hanging out in Africa for 11 years. No one notices, nothing happens, no one goes to contest it or take care of him or anything. And then when we get to Metal Gear Solid or Metal Gear 1 or whatever, all that's left is the head of that mech, and Liquid Snake's grown up and he still has the same grudge with his genes and Big Boss and Solid Snake and everything, but without that connective tissue, that doesn't make any sense at all. So I would just put a little scene in, just put the little scene in about what was going to happen in the game itself. Let me fight him.
What wacky adventures did Liquid Snake and Psycho Mantis get up to?
I know, and maybe at some point in the future they'll do a lovely little spin-off or something. If Konami need ways to plug the canon for money or whatever, so maybe we'll eventually find out.
A pachinko machine.
I'll take it. I'll take a pachinko machine with a lovely rendered cutscene. Show me what a little child Liquid Snake and Psycho Mantis got up to. It's better than nothing, I think. I don't know, but I'll take it. Kojima.
I wish I can change Half-Life 2 Episode 2 because it just needs an ending.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Now, if you want more chatty faces, why not watch through the rest of our playlist? But I just want to say a big thank you to the brilliant channel sponsors for voting on this week's chatty question. And if you want to join the vote, then why not consider hitting the join button and becoming a sponsor today? And we will see you next week. Bye!